What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston podcast network. I've said it so many times in the last few weeks. I'm just going crazy. I was just telling Abby I can't pronounce Pfizer Forum.
We can do that again.
No, I don't care.
This is not live television.
No, we're just rolling.
Okay.
I'm kind of like the Celtics. Rough start.
I was waiting for you to start over.
Picking up stronger. I know, but that's what it is. We just keep rolling here on the Celtics Talk podcast. Abby Chin.
We've faced some adversity. We're just gonna respond and we're gonna push through.
So the Celtics, they dropped 103-101 was the final.
That's the final. Yep.
Could have had a tip that forced overtime. It did not fall.
Could have had 3 tips.
3 tips. And it didn't go. For me, I'm going to let you start. What's your biggest takeaway from today's game?
Such a gentleman. Takeaway is the fact that Jason Tatum had his worst game of the postseason thus far, and the Celtics still had a chance to win. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take some positives out of that. I also was very impressed by Marcus Smart's missed free throw, how perfectly he threw that off the backboard.
Can I, a real quick diversion there? Like will be lost in all this, but so many people mess that moment up. It's almost amazing how good he did it and getting his own and just starting that sequence, although we can't focus on that because they lost.
But also he should have had 3 free throws because that – why? Really?
They haven't called it all year. It's always been an on-the-floor foul.
He was going up. Marcus Smart, my favorite tweet is probably from Gary Washburn. It's like anyone who has watched Marcus Smart play his entire career knew he was trying to shoot a 3 there. What about Marcus Smart's history tells you that he was not trying to throw up a 3? Down 3, look at the clock. What is Marcus Smart doing?
No, and I understand. I'm just telling you how the officials have done it all year. And, I understand people are mad about the officials. I cannot come on this podcast and do a 30 minutes or 20 minutes or even 10 minutes on the officials because the Celtics did not play good enough to be rewarded that they could even blame the officials.
They did play well enough to have a chance.
They did.
To not have it taken away from them by the officials.
And
I will say about that.
So, and absolutely fair. But I'm hot on this because I'm hot and bothered. And people always tell me I'm a green teamer and I don't hold this team accountable. Grant Williams and Jason Tatum not getting back on defense on 2 very specific instances during this game was criminally bad. And I understand there's a lot of positives they can pluck from this game. They should be absolutely optimistic about their ability for Giannis to go for 42 points and still be in this, to have Jason Tatum only score whatever 10 points it was, to be as bad as he was and still have a chance in this game. Those are all great things, except that you didn't get the W. And so, for me, it comes down to you can't come into a building like this and let your foot off the gas for even 30 seconds because it'll come back to bite you. And part of the reason I am convinced of this because I subscribe to the basketball gods. I'm not a basketball atheist. They believe there are basketball gods that hover above and watch how you play. And they said, nope, if circumstances had been different, maybe Al Horford's tip goes in and it counts and there's overtime and you see what happens from there. Tonight it was not going to happen because they disrespected the basketball gods with their level of play through the first 3 quarters.
Call me a green teamer all you want. I am literally wearing green. But, and I am not as big of a subscriber in the basketball gods as our photographer Barry Alley has a huge thunder stick.
Can you bring that on camera, please?
Oh gosh, what a throw! Wow, I mean that's MVP of
it might
this
it
whole
might be
thing.
taller than
it
Abby.
is taller than us. So
something with that.
Again, we're gonna push through. But I will agree with you that he just used it as a large Q-tip. There are so many.
I'm sure that's what he was doing. But
I'm trying to describe it. This is an audio podcast.
No, well, but people watch
and
on
also
YouTube
people
now,
can't
Abby.
see. He was behind the camera, which is part of his magic.
So, yeah,
my point is, you're right.
Yeah.
The third quarter was atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
The entire third quarter, virtually every player who touched the court for the Celtics was terrible. 18 fast break points by the Bucks. How many turnovers did the Celtics have?
I believe it was 7.
And the fact that Giannis just got to go wherever he wanted, pick whatever matchup he wanted, get to the rim however he wanted. Yes, that was atrocious. But
no, go ahead, finish your but before
the Celtics were in a position to win, and it is frustrating that it was decided by a call from the officials.
Then don't put yourself in that position. And how do you do that? You come out of halftime with a 4-point lead and think, wow, we just played a kind of first half, and we're still up in this game, and you don't allow the Bucks to get going and give them easy points in transition. You play better offensive basketball. You're crisper with it, and so I just can't get worked up about the officials. And I know people are going to scream and yell about this.
I'm not worked up about it.
You seem worked up.
I might be a little worked up.
By the way, just for those of you who are listening on the audio version, we had a gigantic thunder stick thrown at us, and that was the slight diversion as we tried to power through. So I always forget. I just think people watch on YouTube now. So if you're one of the lucky ones watching on YouTube, then you get to see that whole
That's
interaction.
also Chris's pitch too. Subscribe on YouTube, please.
So
what do you think? Post game, Jason Tatum came in to the press conference and said he was overthinking it a little too much tonight.
So I think he definitely over-penetrated, he overdid some things. So what this team does is obviously they pack the rim. We've talked a ton about this already, about
the Bucks too.
The Bucks. They challenge you to kick out the shooters and let everybody else beat you, but your superstars who are typically the ones at the basket. So I thought Tatum just didn't do a good job of recognizing when there was space in the mid-range, or when he did have the ability to go up and finish, he was deterred. I don't know. And look, they do that to you, like Brooke and Giannis and Bobby Portis. There's size back there, and so I think you can get spooked easily. But what stood out in the fourth quarter is Jaylen Brown is attacking and relentless, and he was okay with drawing contact. Did he get every call? No. But that's the way you have to play against this team. You have to play fast and you have to play hard. And if you're anything in between, you're not going to have success. And I think Jason Tatum was in between. Now, I get what he's saying there. Okay, he's not playing. He's overthinking. All right, wait, am I supposed to be right here? Am I supposed to be doing this? And as soon as you do that, you're done. Against any team, but especially against this team. So I do think it's an outlier. I don't suspect this is going to happen again in this series. And yet, I just kept waiting for him to kind of have that wake-up moment.
Yeah.
And then when he had that lapse in the third quarter, I'm thinking, how? And I guess the one thing that I kind of go back to is we keep talking about him being a superstar. And absolutely he is on this level now. And he's knocking on that door to the top 5. But superstars, when things aren't working, find a way to impact the game in other ways.
He did in game 2.
And he's done it. And I guess that's why it stands out now. Because he's been so good at doing it throughout these playoffs. Defending Kevin Durant or getting rebounds, assists. The playmaking has been unbelievable. And I think at one point I looked up, it started the fourth quarter. 6-1-1-1 was the line on the board. 1 assist, 1 rebound, and probably 1 foul. That's not enough. And you're going to get taken out of when so much of the defensive game plan is on you. But you're still going to find ways to do more. And so I just need Jason Tatum to do more. I'm sure he knows that, and he's earned the right to get a slight pass because of how good he's been. He's been their best player throughout the postseason. But, this is a huge game of magnitude on the road when your superstars are pivotal to success. I just need a little bit more.
I don't disagree with you, and neither does Jason, and that's what he said post-game. I also don't think that he's looking for a pass after this game. He understands that his teammates, this team, requires more of him. To me, what is concerning, he took a hard fall after that collision with Giannis, falling on his left wrist. Jason revealed to us today that is an injury that he's been dealing with for 2 months.
No big deal.
That he continues to play through. Right. No big deal. Yes, it's not his shooting hand, but
no, it's a concern.
It's continually, the wrap is visual. Now you can see the wrap. What treatment he's trying to get on it.
And there was something in there, too. He had
some padding.
Yeah, or something like that.
So he said it's to keep the swelling down and then also to provide some padding. And I'm not trying to make any excuses for him. My point is that there is so much on Jason Tatum's shoulders and throughout these playoffs when it comes to this particular matchup. And so I don't think he's asking for a pass, and I think that I do believe he will show up in Game 4.
And he didn't blame anything on that.
No.
He just sort of stated the obvious, which is
right.
It's
and
been
was
an issue.
asked directly about it.
Right. So, we've seen him grabbing at his wrist for going on 2 months now, it feels like anyway. And I'm going to have to go back and find the tape of what exactly was the hard fall, because it is something that has lingered. And I guess the one concern I have, not so much right now, but my guess is he's going to have, will rest be enough?
I know.
And does he want to miss USA basketball? If he does need a procedure on that? These are all questions that will cross down the road. It's clearly not something that's going to deter him from playing now, but it is concerning. He's been grabbing that wrist. Even at the start of games, he's gripping it. And so just something to watch moving forward.
Additionally, it's just the physicality of this series.
Yeah.
And the fact is, the Celtics are banged up. Jaylen Brown coming in 3 hours early. I asked him about that today, he said, I'm trying to do whatever it is going to take for me to get out there and perform at my peak when it's game time. And that is dealing with a number of nagging injuries. So coming in, getting treatment. And he said it was an early start once again. So I needed to get in here, make sure that I am up and firing on all cylinders when the game starts. Marcus Smart playing through that quad injury, not to mention the shoulder stinger and whatever's going on in his left elbow. And then Rob Williams took a hard elbow to the head today.
Can we just have a quick moment here? Can everyone stop picking on Rob? Bobby Portis? Like, what the hell?
Back up, man.
Like, watch your elbows,
your hands
man.
off.
Dude's got a head. Like, poor Grant's been hit in the face. Like, if your last name is Williams, it's been a rough series.
Well, that's Grant's taking a beating here, holding on to his hip after that collision.
Because he may get asked in the post game if he thinks like the physicality is a good thing for the Celtics, and he was like, yeah, we want to be. I'm like, I don't know.
I agree with you, but I loved his answer to that.
I do
too.
Like,
we are not running away from any fight.
And that's been their thing, the whole us versus everybody, and like they want to grind, and that's the way you should be. It's just, man, the Bucks take the physicality and ramp it up, and you've got to match it. And there were too many instances tonight where, not from a lack of trying, just the Bucks were more aggressive overall, whether it was just the pace or the way they played, and the Celtics just got to take it up a little bit.
And then Giannis barreling into you at full speed. It just looks painful.
I give Grant, I don't know like what he practices. I wish I could remember who it was. Posted the gif of Happy Gilmore when Adam Sandler's just taking the baseballs to the chest. Like, that's how you must have to get ready for that. Just getting knocked over. And and then the little kid comes in. I'm sorry. I just want to go watch Happy Gilmore now. Let's focus on a couple positives before we start looking ahead to Game 3.
Now who's the green teamer? I'm just kidding. Continue.
Jaylen Brown. So, got to the arena early. I joked with you when we were sitting up in the media section. I said, well, he's not going to be on the late bus from now on because he had a little bit of a rough start. Wasn't as crisp as the other night. But, man, fourth quarter Jaylen, which has been a thing in these playoffs, especially against Brooklyn, I thought he was one that just totally changed everything in terms of his aggressiveness and how good he was willing them back in. I've sort of like, have I underrated? I was asked on Early Edition the other day, like, who has been the most impactful Celtics here? And I was like, someone said, Adam Jones, of all people, said Jaylen Brown. I said, I'd probably rank Tatum ahead of him. I'd probably have, Al, maybe Grant, based on, like, how he won him game 2 and 4. But Jaylen's been really good. And now his consistency is sometimes waned, but, like, tonight, I thought Jaylen was awesome.
I would say the intent and the intensity of Jaylen has been consistent, and that is something that has helped this team carry through. And it's what we saw when they made their run at the second half of the season. The focus, they dialed it up and dialed it in, and Jaylen has been a leader for that. And so it's something that was absolutely necessary for this group, and it's something that he has carried through to this postseason. And while it's just the size of the Bucks and the way that they load the paint, and the Celtics got away from ball movement for long stretches in this game. And then we saw, once you do that, once you move the ball, get the Bucks defense in rotation, pull Brook Lopez just a little bit away from the rim, the Celtics can get virtually any shot that they want. And Jaylen Brown knows that. Jason Tatum knows that. It's frustrating to me that for some reason, for long stretches, this team forgets.
Well, I'm sure Ime will be reminding them tomorrow. But before
that was another Ime thing that was post-game. He was asked after the conversation about the third quarter and the Celtics arguing with officials, Grant Williams not getting back. Someone asked Ime, do you tell them, let me handle talking to the officials, you guys just continue to play? He's like, I tell them that all the time.
All the time, yes.
All the time, yes.
Because
obviously.
He's
what
also
do you think
mentioned
I'm doing?
Yeah, he's also mentioned it like 9 times this year that, hey, let him do that. And he was he was madder than me about the Grant Williams one, where Grant was good, then at the timeout was going to go yell at the official, and Ime was like, no, go over there in the corner and think about what you did. So, which I approve. All right, if Vegas had told you that Al Horford was going to have more points and rebounds combined than his age coming into this game, would you have taken it?
Yes.
No, you would not.
Yes.
He's 35 years old.
I talked to Al pregame. He was locked in.
Was he?
I mean, yes, he was locked in, but
I couldn't watch.
He was very intense. I had some great questions. He just said, "We're ready. We will be ready."
He just blew everything off.
Ready. I mean, as best that Al does, yes. I asked him what it's like when Giannis barrels into you. He said, "We're ready. I'm ready." So there you go. Yes, I would have taken it. I would have taken that 80-1 long shot in the Kentucky Derby.
I'm saying that horse was longer odds than those than
I'm
Al.
kidding. I would have taken that bet.
Al has been great, and so,
Al has been phenomenal.
And so part of me is conflicted as I talk about the basketball gods. Like, if anyone deserved to be rewarded with a late tip-in, it was Al Horford. But again, his young Bucks around him, or not young Bucks, but young Celtics,
They just stripped away. They just pulled away that karma bit by bit.
They took
Al.
every good bit of goodwill that he had created.
It's quite the visual.
They
I'm just
knocked
picturing,
it over.
just like falling off like fairy dust.
And
which is what you're talking about right now.
And so, Al.
So, do you leave Game 3 feeling more confident about the Celtics in this series, or less?
Interesting question. I don't know. I'm gonna wait till I review the tape to have a take on that. I will say this. I'd feel a lot better if they're up 2-1 than down 2-1.
No kidding.
I mean, so
You've gotten a win on the road.
I don't think you can possibly walk away feeling more confident. I think you can take positives away, but at the end of the day, and I've yelled at Scal like this. Like, he was really mad after Game 1 of the Nets series. He's like, it didn't look great. I'm like, it doesn't matter how it looks at this time of year. It's just what happens. No one remembers how these games, like the ebb and flow of the game, is. 2008 championship team. Does anyone sit here and go, what's really, really bad about that 2008 team was that they had to go 7 games in each of the first 2 rounds? No,
I actually have heard a lot about that. And how important it was in that run.
Well, thank you for blowing up my point.
I'm sorry. Continue.
This is the point where we're supposed to smile and nod.
Oh, you want to be done? I'm sorry.
So.
Oh, that was my job.
All right.
I see.
We're retaping this whole thing. But my point is, all that matters at the end of the day.
I would say game to game, you don't remember the ebb and flow.
I'm telling you, no. If you ask most people, what happened that 2008 season, they say the Celtics dominated, and then they ripped through the Lakers, and they avenged the Detroit Pistons and took over the East for them. They don't sit there and say, "Oh yeah, wow, the spunky Hawks took them to 7 games." And I get it, but
clearly I'm too close.
You're way too close. I'm gonna start bringing on randoms from the crowd. Hey, you remember 2008?
What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, right. So, well, now I'm gonna volley the question back to you, and boy, your answer better be great. How are you feeling going to Game 4?
I do. I feel. This doesn't feel like a series-changing loss to me.
Fair.
I think the Celtics, how poorly they played in the third quarter, the fact that they were able to pull it together and get themselves in this game with a lead in the fourth quarter, I feel like Al Horford, if he can hone some of that aggression that we saw in the fourth quarter, maybe he does need to save it up for that fourth and continue to do those kind of Superman things. And then you send out the bat signal. Grant Williams hits a few more corner threes. No, I know, I'm kidding. That was a joke. The Grant Williams thing. Ime, by the way, not buying into Grant Williams and the Batman nickname.
What was I haven't watched it. Again, I was on site.
Thanks, Chris.
It's on my list of things to do. What did he say about that? He just can't.
I asked him if he put out the bat signal in practice before Game 2 because, they sent Grant out to battle Giannis one-on-one. And Ime said, no, I did not do that. I'm not buying that nickname. And I said, really? Why not? And he's like, if Grant continues to play good basketball, he can roll with that. But I'm not doing it. So my point was, the fact that the Celtics were still in this game and had a chance to win gives me more confidence. I do not like the physical beating that they are taking for 48 minutes every other day.
And now it's every other day until the finish line. I will say this. I think we all thought coming in it was going to be a 7-game series. Nothing about the way this series has gone has suggested otherwise. But ultimately, the Celtics do need to win Game 4 to sort of make that a reality, because it's harder to envision them winning 3 in a row at the finish line of this series. All right,
they do have home court advantage. Remember, the Bucks ducked out on the Nets.
They don't have home court advantage at all.
For the record, but they will if they have to. They'll be home for.
Well, then they got to win them.
They'll be home for 5 and 7.
Yeah, but they got to win Game 4 first.
Yeah, you're right.
Or Game 6, but I'm just saying.
Facts.
They have to
Hashtag facts. I get it.
Why don't you go study the 2008 playoffs for a little bit?
I just told you.
All right, we got to go find some thunder sticks for Abby's children that aren't 7 feet long and not TSA approved. So everybody go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. Those are really annoying.
Horrible, Barry. That
shooting.
Horrible.
I can't even talk with one of those things going, let alone shoot a free throw. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.